What's up, guys? This is Fantasy News and Brews. I'm Garrett,
I'm Johnny.
and we're
I'm
here with Alex from Roto. No, you're good. I wanted to give you a better introduction than we got.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we're with Alex. I'll let him introduce himself. He's very, very smart, and we're happy to have him.
Smart except for reading social cues, I guess. But yeah,
Apparently.
Alex Barutha from Rotowire, Rotowire's assistant NBA editor.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Alex. We've been doing a little segment on the top 10 at each position. We did guards, and then last weekend we didn't really have a chance to do anything with all the power outages. I know that my house got hit, so I didn't have internet or electricity for 5 days. So we're really excited to keep it going, and we're not going to stop, and we'll do center next week. So today we're going to do the top 10 forwards. Let's just hop right in.
Yeah, Giannis, most fantasy points from the forward spot. He has about 1,600. That's just over 100 more than the number 2 guy, who we'll get to in a minute. Giannis continues to be great, right? Averaging, like he's pretty much, his fantasy floor is like 55-ish fantasy points on any given night. Obviously, there are some nights where he hits below that, but you trust him for that 55 spot. He's been, for the most part, the same guy he was last year, so none of this is a shock. I mean, some of his scoring's down a little bit, his rebounds are down a little bit, but overall, he's still, putting up MVP caliber numbers.
Yeah, the only complaint I can think about with him is his free throw percentage if you're in a category league. But if you're not, I mean, he's awesome. There's not much to say besides he's awesome to have.
Yeah, if you're in a category league, that free throw percentage is awful. Like I checked like 2 weeks ago, and he's like outside of the top 25 in category leagues because of his free throw percentage. So if you drafted him like number 3, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, that is definitely rough.
For field goals, he really relies on getting dunks in the paint. Nothing else more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, because he hasn't been good like around the paint. I looked up one of his stats the other day. On shots in the paint that aren't dunks or layups, he's shooting 29%, which is awful. Like, that's really bad for someone his size. Like, Anthony Davis is like 45 to 50% there. Rashawn Holmes is like 60%. So if he's not dunking or getting a layup, he's like not that great on like shooting the ball.
No, he's terrible. I mean, like he's attempted as one less three than Kawhi has this season at 116 attempted, and he's shooting 27%. That is not something that you really want. At this point, you almost want to just tell him to stop shooting threes.
Most people want him to stop shooting threes. I thought he was going to stop shooting threes, because he had a 2-game stretch where he shot 0. And I was like, oh, finally, like he's going to stop shooting these. And then he immediately followed that up with 3, 4, 5, 4, So yeah. I don't know what his deal is there.
Well, teams have just kind of figured him out, just leaving him open top of the key and building, like having that wall kind of around the free throw line to stop him from driving into the paint.
Yeah, and he's not patient enough to like deal with that. Like someone like even Zion is getting better at that than Giannis is. Like giving Zion the ball and having him run pick and roll. Zion's already becoming just as good, if not better than Giannis at that already, because Giannis just charge through everybody. And I think he's got some flaws in his game still, but fantasy perspective, again, if you have him on your team, you're doing great, because he's got 1,600 fantasy points through, I don't even know what week this is, week 10 or something.
Yeah, something like that, depending on when you started it. But okay, let's move on. I mean, we all know Giannis is great, and let's move on to number 2, who is someone that I really didn't think would be this high, and that's LeBron James. And the only reason that I didn't think he would be this high is because I didn't think he would play the minutes this year. I thought they would kind of coast. But sadly, that has not been the case. LeBron has been playing a ton of minutes. And now with KD or with Anthony Davis out, the last 4, 5, 6 games is 41 minutes, 34, 30, 37, 32, 37. Before that, he had 46 against Detroit in an overtime game. This is just not the wear and tear that we thought LeBron was going to have on his body at this point in the season. Like, I don't think anyone saw this coming. That being said, it's great for fantasy because he's the number 2, and he's pretty much far and away from the number 3 by like over 100 points. I mean, LeBron James has just been great for fantasy this year, and he's someone that I kind of when picking in that, when you drafted in the 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's not a lot of guys that fell, he was someone that I was avoiding. I really did not want LeBron on my team this year. And I look stupid now because he's been doing great and he's going to have to keep playing these high minutes with AD out. I don't really think that the Lakers are trying to secure the one spot necessarily, but they are trying to just seed into the playoffs so that when Anthony Davis comes back after his vacation, they'll. I mean, who's going to beat the Lakers? You know, maybe
Yeah,
the Clippers.
Giannis, LeBron's minutes are, it's crazy what he's doing when he's 35, 36 years old. Yeah, over the past 7 games, basically this is a stretch where Anthony Davis only played 2 games, and he's going to be out like until past the All-Star break now. LeBron's averaging 26, 10, and 8 with a steal and half a block. But the main thing there is he's only shooting 20% from 3. So when he shoots better from 3, those points per game will probably be like 30. And then he'll be closer to like 53 to 54 fantasy points a game as opposed to like the 51 he's at right now. So yeah, with AD out, I mean, he's going to, I mean, we know what his floor is as a player, but he's obviously got like way more upside over the next month or so.
Yeah, totally. He could be like a league winner at this point with AD coming out.
Yeah, we'll see how long they keep AD out for. If they're just gonna hold him till playoffs, depending on how well their seeding is going to.
As long as they're like a
maintain.
top 5 seed, what's the point in putting AD back in? Make him go play at the All-Star game so he can get hurt there potentially. I mean, AD's only complaint about his game is if he can stay healthy, which he's kind of become a liability in that area, just the injury history. But I mean, if you have a healthy AD in the playoffs, what's the point in caring what seed you are almost? And I think that's kind of what they're going to do is they're just going to play LeBron those 35 minutes a game that he needs to play to get them a seed.
Yep.
All right, number 3. Tell me about him.
All right, number 3, we have Julius Randle. Currently with 1,321 fantasy points on the season, and I'm sure a lot of you find this as a surprise coming from playing on the New York Knicks. Yeah, in the beginning of the season, Tom Thibodeau ran this guy into the ground, and he's still his minutes have decreased a little bit as they've gained a little more depth. More guys coming back from injuries and stuff, but he's still putting up decent minutes, 23 points a game, 11 boards, 5.5 assists, shooting 48% from the field. Like he's still putting up solid numbers there, and I can see this trend continuing. He's just an all-around good player. He's improving under this new coaching staff. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, there's really no reason. I don't think there's a reason to think that Randall his usage will decrease or anything like that. I mean, they got Derrick Rose, but Derrick Rose is kind of running the second unit. He's just going to, you don't want him to overlap with Randall too much. That's a little too redundant as far as like high usage guys who want shot attempts. And Randall, 44 fantasy points a game, averaging 23, 11, and 5. They're going to keep running things through him because they've been successful doing it. And unless, like you kind of alluded to, unless they make some sort of crazy trade or something that nobody's expecting, you should continue to think Randall is going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I saw potentially stopping him from being this good was Obi Toppin coming back in the middle of January. And now we have a pretty large sample size to say that Obi Toppin is not going to he's going to get around 10 minutes a game.
Right.
And they're not even cutting into Julius Randle's minutes pretty much. So I really don't know why, with the way that we've seen their coaching and their rotations, I don't know why we would see a decrease in Julius Randle's minutes. I mean, there's nothing really coming up unless they make a major trade. I don't know if they go get Bradley Beal or something. I don't see them doing that. So I don't think that there's really reason, barring injury, to expect anything less than what we're seeing from Julius Randle.
Well, hey, they can make the playoffs, so maybe they want to go after a big name like that.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't know why they would. I mean, yeah, and any team wants Bradley Beal, but I mean, they have so many forward. I mean, who would they trade for, do you think? I mean, I can't really think of anyone that the Knicks would really try to go after that's available. Like I know Boogie's on the trade market. I can't see him going after Boogie.
Yeah, Boogie's a buyout guy. They could just grab him off waiver
Yeah,
wire.
that's true.
But yeah, I mean, I also just don't think they have any real assets to trade. I mean, unless you trade RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson, it's going to be hard to get anybody. Like if you're Washington, maybe that's enough plus picks. But
I mean, the Heat's gonna offer a better package than that if they actually put Bradley Beal up, right? I mean, there's gonna be better offers than
yeah.
Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, and picks. They're definitely gonna get better than that. So
Yeah, I think
don't
so.
know. I don't think there's any worry. I think this is not a fluke. I think Julius Randle is gonna keep it up.
So do I. So the number 4 guy, number 4 fantasy forward is Brandon Ingram. He's got 1,142 fantasy points. Kind of like he's part of the two-headed monster there in New Orleans with Zion. He's been great. He's been steady all year, averaging about, like 22 to 24 points, 5 to 7 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. And that all kind of comes together to get you, about 40 fantasy points a game. Like Zion is handling the ball more there. He's running more pick and roll. He's not just a post player anymore, but I don't really think that's going to do anything as far as like a legitimate downturn in Ingram's fantasy production, at least more than like 5 fantasy points a game or something like that. Like Ingram is still 23. He's still a huge part of their rebuild essentially. And, even Lonzo Ball has some good nights as well, but he's mostly just, pass the ball around guy and everything like that. So Ingram is definitely still kind of in the mix here and putting up like fringe all-star numbers. If he was on a winning team, he'd be an all-star. He's just not on a good team.
Who would you rather have, Zion or Brandon Ingram?
Zion.
Okay.
They're both bad at defense, right? So like I kind of throw that aspect of the equation out of it. And like Ingram can hit threes, like he's 39% from 3, but I just think what Zion is doing, Zion is able to put up the exact same numbers as Brandon Ingram like right now. And he's like 3 years younger. So they're very different players, but I think if you made me pick one to like build a franchise around, I think I'd still rather take Zion at this point. Zion has like an elite skill. That's the thing. Ingram doesn't have like an elite skill. He's a really good all around player. He can shoot threes, but Zion's at rim, his shooting at the rim, his ability to finish inside. That's like an elite skill that we already know he has. And then you can build beyond that.
I agree. I would take Zion as well. And spoiler alert, Zion is number 5 on our list, but Brandon Ingram and Zion are separated by about like 13 fantasy points, and Zion has played 1 less game. So, I mean, realistically, Zion could pass Brandon Ingram pretty soon here, to your point. And I think that Brandon Ingram is still a really safe bet, though. Do you think Brandon Ingram falls out of the top 10? I mean, I couldn't see it really, unless there's injury.
No, I don't. He's too locked into his role.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so we're gonna do one more for the top 10. We're gonna separate the next 5 into another video, which will be posted tomorrow. But for now, number 5, as we said, is Zion, and we kind of talked about him already a little bit. But I mean, the dude is, he's balling. His past like 5 fantasy games, he's gotten over 50 twice, over 40 twice, and then the other one was a 30-point game. I mean, this guy's floor is so good now. I mean, he's not gonna pop off and get you like a 70 like a James Harden would, or like a one of those top caliber players are, but his floor is so high that you almost don't even need it. You can just rely on a solid 40 to 50 from Zion every night. I mean, 30 fantasy points in a points league is this dude's like bad game. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, I think Zion actually does have the potential for a 70-point. I'm just not sure he'll get it. Just like,
there's the potential. The potential is definitely there. It's just don't bank on that like you would with a James Harden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Zion, he's not a consistent enough rebounder. He's not that much. He's not like a dynamic passer. He's not a huge defensive stats guy. And like you mentioned, that 30-point fantasy game, which was, I think, like his 3rd worst of the year.
Yeah,
that was against the Suns, who are one of the best defenses in the NBA. And by the way, 2 of his 3 worst fantasy games were against the Suns. So I think that's just a matchup thing. So like the majority of the games that you have Zion for, it's probably closer to a 40 fantasy point floor. And yeah, like I mentioned before, if you go and watch his highlights from like any of the past 5, maybe 6 games, he is handling the ball a ton. Like they run pick and roll with him. He drives to the basket. He makes, like cross court passes, or he's just easy passes because teams collapse like 3 guys onto it when he gets into the lane because they have nothing else to do. So he's like developing as a player and like he actually has more room to grow from here on out, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. What do you
They
think?
imagine that offense without Brandon Ingram and how high Zion's ceiling would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of hurt each other in a way, but also
do.
help each other by spacing, with floor spacing and stuff. But yeah, I think he's the kind of guy who does have that kind of potential, just not right now, not on this team, with all these other studs.
I would love it if one of them got traded. Like that would just bring both of their ceilings and floors so much higher. I mean, these guys essentially play the same position. Zion, I mean, you can argue he's a power forward, but he's 6'7". He's built, he's 284, but like he's pretty much just an oversized big small forward, and that's Brandon Ingram as well. So these guys literally play the exact same position, but they're both out there on the floor at the same time. If we could just get them separated, that would be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I know there were discussions about like this was before Harden got traded, would the Pelicans trade Ingram for Harden? But that really wouldn't have solved the problem that you're talking about. So yeah, I'm not sure.
It might have. I mean, James Harden is one of the best passers that we have in the league. So maybe that would elevate. I'm assuming they wouldn't have traded Zion. They would have traded Ingram, I'm sure. So
yeah,
maybe that would have elevated Zion a little bit better.
Zion Harden pick and roll game would be insane. I would love to see that. Well, I'm sure we'll see him in the All-Star game sooner than later.
Oh, yeah. And I also, on the flip side, I would like to see Brandon Ingram on Houston playing with Christian Wood and John Wall. That would be fun.
John Wall. Ooh.
That would have been a fun trade. All right, so let's stop this one here. Thank you guys for tuning in. So you'll catch the next video, which will be posted tomorrow, and we'll talk about the 6 through 10. We're gonna, same thing, talk about risers, fallers, what we think about them, just kind of give our analysis. Do you guys have anything else to say?
No, just looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, same. So go follow us on Twitter. We'll answer all of your fantasy questions. Join our Discord. Link will be in the bio of this video. And thank you for tuning in.